very well, thanks, Raj. How are you?
I'm doing incredibly well. How's life? It's been almost a year and a half, 2 years since we last chatted, and
Yeah.
I get the pleasure of going back through it again with you.
Yeah, it's been some time, and in some ways, many things have changed, and in some ways, not a whole lot has changed. So, fortunately, still the same company in the same role. But I'd say the company is in a little bit of a further on stage, which is a good thing.
We love to hear it. Look, I want to. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Has the company changed from what the mission is?
No, that has stayed the same from day one, and that is to help people figure out which skincare products to use and whether they're actually working.
You've done a huge amount of social in that period of time. I feel like you're on every single podcast that I've ever come across. Like it's just Ahana in the feed, right? Um,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
a targeted, a very well thought out and very well executed. I am going to go and do this type of outreach content to put ourselves out there. Did that work for the business?
100%. As you just said, it was very intentional, and it stemmed from the fact that, and we spoke about this on the last podcast, which was the way that my career as an entrepreneur started was very sudden. Literally, one day I was a student, the next day I was building this company full time. And so I didn't have the luxury of a network. I didn't know people. I didn't have the visibility in front of the people I needed. And at that time, it was investors, it was business contacts, it was people in the industry. And I viewed it as a business challenge of, I have many things, but one thing I lack is the network. What can I do to get in front of the people that I'm trying to reach? And, I think because of the way that my career started and some of the experiences I've had, one thing that I really do feel strongly about is sharing that journey, because I didn't see many people like me embarking on this journey. And I think had I heard some of the stories that I've now heard in rooms or in one-on-one chats with founders, I'd have been even more emboldened to take some of the decisions I did, and I wouldn't have felt so alone in some of those decisions. And so, for the benefit of others, but also for my own sake of getting that visibility in front of the people I needed, I made a conscious effort to post a lot on LinkedIn, to say yes to most visibility opportunities. And because of that, it massively turned the tables. From before, I couldn't get a meeting with an investor despite numerous emails, messages, all the forms of harassment possible, to now it's the other way. It's investors are contacting me because of what I've invested into the personal branding side of things.
What was the exercise of you doing pull-ups also strategic, or was that just you having fun with it?
That was just me showing off.
Well, just that you've got more gains than most founders today.
You know what? I laugh about it, and sometimes I hope it doesn't read too cringy on LinkedIn, but there are so many parallels with my fitness journey to my founder journey that I can't help but want to share it, because the two are very intertwined in the sense that I spent the first 2.5 years, probably the last time we spoke as well, like I was just so heads down. I don't want to glamorize this whole 996 culture, but I also would never shy away from the fact that it took a lot of hard work to get my company off the ground and to where it is. But in that process, I did completely neglect my health. And it got to the point about maybe at this point, like 2 years ago, where I was just like, I actually love my job. I love what I do. I want this to be my career for the long term. But if I continue living this way, I'm not going to be here for the long term. And I know that sounds really morbid, but I just realized that, this isn't the kind of job where someone in HR is enforcing that you take your annual leave, or a manager is constantly asking how you are, if you're sleeping enough, eating enough, whatever. I realized that it is literally my responsibility, not just to take care of the business, but also to take care of myself. And so I just one day, like just I think it was in November or something, 2 years ago, I was like, I'm just gonna take this seriously. I'm going to take my health as seriously as my job, because it is my job to keep myself healthy as well. Um, and yeah, I got strong in the process. I did the Royal Parks half marathon on Sunday as well. So
What was the
the run
timing?
1 hour 50,
Was that a good
which
time? Is that a bad time?
okay, so this this is the whole thing. It was not my target time. My target time was 1 hour 45, and the last half marathon I did, the last race I did at least in May, was 1 hour 48. So I was 2 minutes slower than my last one, but I was ill, like quite badly ill actually, for like the week before last. And so my training went off the rails. I also moved house in that time, got engaged in that time. Like so many life changes have happened in the past couple of weeks that my training was not optimal. And I made a conscious choice. I was about 5K in, my paces were like 440, 450, which was a bit faster actually than I expected to set off. And so I was very much on track for the 145, but it hurt. It did not feel nice. And it's such a beautiful running route. It was quite like symbolic in a way as well. It finishes at the Royal Albert Hall, which is where I had my university graduation from. It was all the routes I used to walk during my undergrad. And so I kind of just wanted to enjoy it. And I did the quick cost benefit analysis of, will that extra like 3 minutes of time give me like the level of happiness that I will experience if I actually just enjoy this run. Like I've had a really solid start, even if I go at not a comfortable pace, but like, you know, a not killing myself pace, I'll still get a respectable time and like I can actually enjoy the day. So I made that decision and I'm actually so glad that I did, because I was disappointed after the last half marathon I did. And then to put things in context, again, 2 years ago, I couldn't even run 1 kilometer without stopping. So now the fact that it's like, oh, no big deal, I'll just do 21.
I'll just
I'm
do
not
a
surprised.
cheeky 20 here and there. You know,
I'm not.
I'll run a five in an evening. You know, I'll do a marathon like every other month these days. It's like I'll just go build the startup from those relevant cities. Is that how we're thinking about it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna be precious about a 1 hour 50 time. I'm proud of it. It was a great day, and my fitness has come leaps and bounds from where it was. So I'm
You
happy.
said something there that's interesting, right? And I want to pull on this thread. You slowed down, or you sort of stayed in it, and you stayed in it because you were able to slow down. With startups, you sort of can't do that. And Clear is obviously in the last year and a half has grown massively, or last 2 years has grown massively since we last talked.
Yeah.
We had a conversation like sort of as GPT 3.5 was released. What's changed?
I would say a lot of things have changed, but actually not so much because of LLMs. I think that maybe more has sped up my like email efficiency. Of course, I still write most of my emails, but no, I think it's more sort of from a company life cycle perspective. Um, when I started Clear, there was always this question that I had, that investors had, and that was, why is there no market leading skincare app? We have apps like Strava, we have apps like Flow for period tracking, apps like MyFitnessPal for calorie tracking. Why is there no equivalent in the skincare space? And I always saw the two potential answers to that question was, number one, there doesn't need to be, or number two, it hasn't been done well before. And obviously, I firmly believe the latter. I had tried every skincare app on the App Store, and you know, the more I dug into who's built them, why they built them, etc., it started to make sense to me. And so I thought, you know what? How many skincare enthusiasts are also software engineers and want to put everything into building a business like this? But what that meant from a day-to-day perspective is there was no feature set that we could just execute on and then, you know, be like, okay, this is going to be the perfect app and the rest will sort itself out. It meant that it was a very painstaking, not sexy or glamorous process of product development, of interviewing users, brainstorming ideas, UX designing them, actually building them, A/B testing them, constantly iterating, which I actually love doing. You know, me and my CTO have a great product development process, but it's long. You know, it's not glamorous. There's no headline for it, but I'd set some quite aggressive retention targets, because for me that was the marker of, this is a good app. And I always saw how big the market was, all the potential streams of revenue, of growth, etc. But fundamentally, if the app was not good, nothing else works, and there's no point. I was also I am solving a problem so close to my heart that having the kind of impact that I wish to have on our users comes before anything, comes before being a unicorn, before pleasing my investors. It's to help people with skin like me use what I have from a skill set and education perspective to help people on that similar journey with their skin. And so when we last spoke, I was still very much in that product development phase. But the good news is since we've hit those retention targets and now entered kind of a more new stage of more intentional growth, still cheap, but intentional, and focusing more on the B2B side, opening up more revenue streams, etc.
There's so much to like tap open there. I want to focus a little bit on the stickiness. How do you make a product that inherently is sort of used only once a day to check your skin and then recommend recommend the relevant items to use on it? How do you make that sticky so that people are constantly using it?
Yeah, so I think that the best thing to do is to just have a really deep fundamental understanding of what the existing behaviors are. It's really hard to get people to change behaviors. And in a
And so
way,
what are the behaviors? Like, is I just go to
well,
the mirror and I check my skin, and you want to make clear, do the same thing?
well, Raj, I hope that you are washing your face twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, and SPF in the morning as well.
Definitely
So,
not the SPF, but we can live without it for a short period of time.
okay, my one request to you is please start using an SPF.
Do we have a specific type of SPF that I have to use from a good brand?
You can get a proper recommendation on Clear for free. This is
Okay, that was the
not the
perfect
plug way,
ad.
but
That was the
that was
perfect plug.
sounded so sponsored. But what the app can tell you is better than what I can tell. Of course, I have my favorites that you can also see on my Clear diary, but what the app will account for is your skin type, your skin concerns, your skin color, the fact that you're a male, like all of these different parameters, and it will see what works for other people with skin like you. That's literally how it works. So it's there to help people get started. But the idea was, okay, people should be doing their skincare routine twice a day. That's the first thing. The second thing, though, and actually a really big draw, is the power of community. Because for a lot of people, especially people like myself that have experienced skin issues, is it's tough, you know, from an emotional mental health perspective. And you can often feel very, very alone. You can feel hopeless. You try things, it's not helped by the fact that it's such a heavily marketed industry where brands are constantly preying on the insecurities of individuals like ours. So actually just the community, just having the support from people with skin like you on a similar journey is an incredibly sticky part to what we're doing. But the community, it's not just there for the sake of maxing our retention numbers. That's how the data is collected and generated, because we need data from regular everyday people just using their skin routines, using the app to see if that what they're doing is working for them. But that's the same data that we're using to, you know, average and aggregate across these tens of thousands of people to make these truly unbiased recommendations based on what's actually working.
How are you thinking about the implementation of AI and its relevant technologies across voice, video, photo, the LLMs into the app?
Well, from day one, you know, it's been central to our recommendations algorithm, because the core functionality of the app has always been users log the products they use, any medications they take, and they take progress pictures. So AI was used from that initial version to be able to analyze the images of people's faces and account for all these various parameters to say what's working and what's not. So, you know, it's funny because I don't think anyone would call Clear an AI company. I often get beauty, I get tech, I get consumer, I get femtech, but it's a data company. It is an AI. That is the innovation in what we're doing. And so, you know, I think that it's always been fundamental to the recommendations part of how the app works. What we kind of want to move more towards from a product perspective is have the app almost be this all-in-one coach, or like a big sister type of interface, where currently we've got all the data, but it's a matter of how you communicate that with the consumer. And I think that's where it can be so powerful. It can be hyper personalized. It can sift through the reams of community information and actually get you the exact answer you want and when. But it's not just a random chatbot giving you untrustworthy things. It can point to where in the community it's pulling information from. So just kind of almost unlocking a new feature set and having more bespoke, in a way, coaching, but in a way that is scalable, because we have so much data on the app.
When does the power of that scale kick in? Is it already kicked in, or is it just downstream in a couple of years as sort of the app grows and you go through that like gigantic growth stage, and then you can go, wow, now the data can really come to life? Or is that
You
just
know,
already happening?
so it's interesting. Of course, with more scale, the bigger the impact, right? Like the more trends you can spot, the less biases that are introduced. But what's interesting is we are in a space, an industry, where historically there is basically no data. So the amount of data that we have now, bear in mind, we have spent nothing on acquiring users. We've done no paid marketing. Our data set is already at least 10 times larger than what the market leading brands, the L'Oreal's, the Beiersdorfs, are able to work with. And, you know, these are the brands with the biggest scale. And it's purely because it is so hard to collect data in the beauty industry. No individual brand is going to build a tracking app where you can track all of your products, but consumers do not use just one brand. Consumers mix, match, they try, buy things, so there is no incentive for a large beauty player, even with the best resources, who probably would be able to afford the biggest trials, to collect data at the kind of scale that we do. So, already with zero money spent on getting people onto the platform, our data is already, as I said, 10 times bigger than what the biggest brands already work with. It's real time, it's granular, and it's constantly changing. So we're already able to have a huge impact, but I'm always excited about the prospect of even more data. And, I think there's also some underserved markets as well. Male skincare is a big one. Because we've done no marketing, we've kind of just seen who's come to us organically, and organically it's been 90% of women, and the 10% of men are normally curious startup founders rather than skincare enthusiasts. But I hope that changes, and I hope we can get more men on the app because they want to get into skincare, or they have a routine that they want to uphold. And I think that will make the data set even more powerful as we continue to scale.
Do you think it ends up sort of all converging in the same place? You have your Strava that acquired Runner. You have Clear that may acquire multiple other applications or be acquired long term by something like not an incumbent, but a player in an adjacent space.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think I'm very hesitant about the notion of Clear ever being sold to a single beauty company, because the whole point, the power of what we're doing, is the fact that we're brand agnostic. So I think perhaps something in the health and wellness space, or the fact that, skin is so affected by your stress levels, your sleep, your menstrual cycle, your exercise, all of these different variables. And what we've done with Clear is we've isolated one, which is the products you're using, because that's already an entire $200 billion market in itself. So definitely I see whether that's an acquisition on our end or us acquiring other companies. I definitely see integrations with more health data. I think that's really, really powerful. Whether that means we would create that within Clear or leverage existing data, even from Apple, Google Health, into our recommendations, that's something already on the roadmap for us. But again, with that going more into the digital health space, there's extra regulation, etc., and we're still relatively early stage with so many things still to achieve. That's why we haven't done it already. But in the long term, absolutely, we want to be your go-to when it comes to the health of your skin.
You've, over the period of time that I've known you, have managed the money in the bank really, really well, and sort of found a burn rate that has consistently allowed you to stay in the game. What changes as you enter growth stage?
That's a very scary question, but I think the simple answer is I got to start spending some money. A lot of what we've achieved in the past couple of years, I think, has been really hard, in the sense of there was no blueprint to building the app that we have today. It was that very long, intentional, thoughtful process. Now, I'm never going to be the kind of founder that just throws money at a problem and crosses my fingers. That's against everything in my DNA. But I think there does come a point where you are dabbling in a philosophical sense, in a solved problem. So in a way, building the market-leading skincare app was not a solved problem. It required real innovation. Not to say scaling a business is easy. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. What I am saying is other people have scaled apps. Other people have scaled apps from the stage that we are at. I have spoken to said people that have scaled apps, and there is one common thread in all of their stories, and it was they raised more capital and they put it into marketing. And so part of me has really grappled with this of, do we continue with this very organic approach, which is testament to the product, which I'm very, very proud of, or do we do what we know works? What the evidence suggests is the way to scale a business from this point. And so I've kind of found the happy medium, which is I'm going to start with some very low budget experimentation. And again, fortunately, I've been so careful with the company's burn that we have the wiggle room to experiment. So conduct some experiments, look at different growth channels, have a real clear sense of what the unit economics are like. For every dollar we invest, how much are we actually getting back? Be able to take those metrics from all these different growth channels to investors, raise some further capital, but for the next round, in the way that the first round basically all went into product, the next round will all go into growth. But it won't be just blind, shooting darts with no context. It will be, we've done the experiments, we know what to expect. So it really is just a matter of doubling down on what works for us.
What's hard for Clear right now? And what's hard for you?
I think it's just it's doing so much as such a small team. It is the number one thing. A lot of people don't realize that it is just me and my CTO Charles full time. It's two of us, and we're managing a company with 50,000 users across the world. So even just the customer support could be its own job. The managing the community management could be its own job. Then there's the marketing, there's all of the social media channels that I'm doing. There's all of the product and tech work as well. So, a lot of times the CTO would just be writing code, but Charles is there, speaking to the users directly, gathering the feedback, analyzing the metrics and the data. On my side, we're also managing our B2B contracts, product testing programs, program management for that. So it's just too much work. It's an insane amount of work. And I know I said, in those first few years, I worked incredibly, incredibly hard to get it off the ground. The thing is that the company is in a different stage now where it's almost like these new business divisions have been formed and business is happening, but the team hasn't grown massively. So I just work weekends and I don't really take holidays. And that's the life I've signed up to. But I will say, because I have taken care of my health and been very intentional about making sure that I'm not now working at the cost of my health, I actually do find this slightly imbalanced life quite sustainable because yes, I work weekends, but I work weekends because I make sure that I sleep enough and I make sure that I'm exercising and I make sure that I'm eating reasonably healthy meals. So
And
I think that
tracking the skin with Clear.
of course, tracking I actually track a lot. I track menstrual cycle. I actually use Clear as my all-in-one tracker because for me, my skin is the first to show everything
Is that quite
going.
normal?
If you're unlucky, yes. I think, it depends. For some people, their skin is very, very resilient. For me, it is the opposite. All my resilience, I think, fortunately went into my personality of persevering to build this company and run half marathons, but my skin will just go. Like if even one night I don't sleep enough, or if I've eaten way too much sugar or whatever it might be, it's very, very reactive. It's very sensitive to stress. And again, I only actually know this because I've been tracking it. A lot of people wonder like what's wrong with them or their skin. And it is different for everyone, which is what makes this industry such a minefield and so hard to treat. That's why people suffer, because if it was as simple as you do X and your problem will be gone, then there wouldn't be an industry and an entire field of medicine around this as well. So no, it's different for everyone. I got unlucky with my skin, but again, I think had I not experienced these troubles, I couldn't have built this company. I couldn't have done the kinds of user interviews that I did, had the kinds of conversations that I did. And then I guess on the flip side, like the gratification I feel, despite being tired, despite having this very overwhelming amount of work, just getting messages from our users and like not unsolicited, but just emails out of the blue where it's like, we had one last week where someone was just like, your customer service, like you respond so quickly, you're so genuinely helpful. Like I can see, thank you for building this feature I asked you to, like it's made such a difference. And if you go on the app, you see in the community, people feel comfortable sharing pictures of their skin, supporting each other. And because obviously I built the app, I was there from day one where there wasn't anyone in the community. And I was that person that had to like comment on everyone's posts and make sure that like they're getting enough interactions. Seeing how much it's grown on its own, how much people interact with it, and how much it actually helps people is just the best feeling. And, the more of my peers I speak to, often in corporate jobs, like in terms of that sense of gratification and satisfaction in the work itself, I feel so lucky that I get to do this. And I feel like my time spent, on this earth is spent well and doing something positive. So for me, even if I'm tired, it is 100% worth it. And I couldn't have made a better decision in how I spend my time.
That was
So
deeply philosophical for a Tuesday morning, right? Or Tuesday, just early afternoon. Before we let you go, one of the things we love to ask founders on the show is who is on your Mount Rushmore of founders? So 4 founders from any point in history, whatever that word means to you, who are they for you?
I probably should have prepared for this. I like being, authentic.
It's the fun of life. I get to put you on
Can
the spot.
Can I give you a really unhelpful answer?
No, I need four. I always cop out.
But look, the reason that I'm copping out is because like I really do not like idolize, like I don't idolize people, because unless you know the full story and the full context, like there are things in many people that I admire, but
Okay, so give
without,
me the traits that you love from specific people that you have found to be useful in the work that you do. And so, is that
okay,
a Christian Dior in the way that he looks? Sorry, a Bernard Allant from LVHM in the way that he's so precise with everything that has to be in all of his 253 stores? Is that a is that an Einstein in understanding like the deep analytical, the deep psychological and philosophical aspects of science? For you, like who is it? Who are these people that have influenced your life? Rather than the archetype of like, I just want this random one person.
no, but even with that, like I'm sure Einstein was a great dude, but like I don't know any other person's story well. It like I can't give you an answer because there is that I don't obsess over people. The only people, to tell you very honestly, Raj, I've ever like obsessed with and seen as like gods are Blink 182. Like those are
There we
the
go.
only
There we go.
people
Isn't
who
there?
I would like.
There's four of them, or is there two of
There's,
them?
there's three of them. There's
Ah,
three. And when you ask me why, oh, well, I guess like there was a fourth bandmate who left, and there was one that left. So hey, we can make it four. But there's no rationale to it. It's just about the way that you know what? Okay, for them, what I can say is it's a reminder, which is very ironic because I'm the most like boring, serious person ever, but it's to not take life too seriously. And it's just to constantly put things into perspective and try and like enjoy the journey in a sense and try and touch other people with the work that you're doing. And so I think because of that, like they had a huge impact on me when I was a teenager and moving across countries, and there's a lot of change in my life. They were sort of the one constant, and that brought me a lot of peace in those years that could have otherwise been quite tumultuous and stressful. But when it honestly, when it comes to entrepreneurial successes, like I'm trying to there are people like, you know, the Canva founder, I like her story, but I also cannot say hand on heart, I have watched her podcasts and read articles and stuff. I see on the outside, like, cool, she's a young female founder, achieved amazing things. Like, she also didn't have any connections in the industry. It's admirable. But I just hesitate to put people on a pedestal because you just don't know. Like, without knowing the full context and the person's full story, I just find it really hard to idolize people. So the people that I do idolize are people like my mum, my dad, which
they could be your founders. It's okay. You could
I
say
don't,
it.
they're not founders, and I don't think that's helpful for anyone listening. But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm holding my ground.
Okay,
Like
it's okay.
like Blink
I'll give
182.
you Blink 182. I don't usually concede, but on this one I will. Ahana, it's always a pleasure. Looking forward to see what happens in this next growth stage. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Viraj, and I apologize for my
Just
answer to your
ruined the ending of the show. No, it's okay. This has been awesome. I'll definitely see you soon. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, Viraj. Nice to chat.